What's up? It's me, Kaniki, a chick with opinions. Let's take care of business. Go ahead and subscribe, like, and share this video. Today, I want to talk about something that we need to be discussing on a regular basis, and it's trauma. I want to discuss how to identify it and how to work through the emotions left over from a traumatic experience. Have you ever had an outburst or had a situation where your emotional response just didn't fit the situation at hand? Well, this could be a result of you being triggered by a traumatic experience. Trauma is defined as an emotional response from a distressful situation. Trauma can have immediate results such as shock or denial, but trauma can also have long-term emotional responses, unpredictable emotional responses. And that's why it's so important to be able to identify. The traumatic experience can be as evident as living through a car accident, but it can also be very subtle. And in my case, growing up without my father in my life was a traumatic experience. And I really didn't realize that until I became an adult. You see, my father was murdered when I was 3 years old. Many of you who know me are pretty much aware of that, but some of you don't. It's not anything I try to hide, so I talk about it, and this is one of the ways that helped me work through my trauma. But he was murdered when I was 3 years old, and it wasn't just the fact that he was murdered. He was murdered by a family member, his sister. And so that was kind of a double whammy, because not only did I grow up with this person in my life, I grew up with this person and had love for this person. I love this individual. I don't know, had I known about what had transpired, if the feelings would have still been there. But because I didn't know, I grew up with this person in my life, around this person constantly. And so I can't even pinpoint the exact time when I came into the awareness of what she had done, or of why my father was no longer a part of my life here in this realm. I don't know if it was just little innuendos or, just meeting people and them saying, and when introducing myself, I would, from the country, you always tell who your people are. And so when I would share that with them, people would have things to say. So I think it was a culmination of things, because there was never a conversation prior to that. So I grew up with this person in my life. When I came into the realization of what had transpired, what she had done, I had an internal war kind of going on. I loved her, but I hated her at the same time from her taking away someone so special in my life. And when I came into the realization of it, stuff really just started clicking and started making sense. I used to have this reoccurring memory of going to go visit this person. My grandmother, her mother, and my father's mother would pack a picnic. She'd make homemade biscuits, homemade jams, and just pack a picnic. And me, my sister, and my cousin would go and visit my aunt. As a child, I thought we were just going to go visit my aunt at the place that she lived. As an adult, looking back on the memory, I realized that we were going to go visit my aunt at the women's prison here in Raleigh. and it was family day. And so during that time, I don't know how often, we would have family day, but when we were able to, I remember my grandmother, packing us all up and going up there and having family day with her. So you can imagine that when I finally came into the realization of what this person had done, I was kind of devastated. I was devastated. I was mad. Sad. And really, because I was an adolescent, because I was a child, really didn't have the words to articulate how I was feeling, especially not to this person. I didn't have the words to articulate my grievances. And so, there was an internal struggle for quite some time. And in the Black community, I'm sure in many families, we were taught, especially back then, you don't discuss family business, let the past be the past. Let sleeping dogs lie. And I really feel that mentality is what's gotten us to this place now. That not addressing issues, that not, discussing things of that nature has really contributed to mental illness in our society and probably around the world. I think it's really important to discuss things so that you can work out your feelings. That's why I don't like it when families don't discuss family business, because it teaches us to not deal with our emotions. We don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. Now 5 years, 10 years, 20 years have passed. We don't want to make that person feel uncomfortable. But in all reality, not dealing with our emotions is killing us little by little, because although we think we're not dealing with it, we are dealing with it internally. It's killing us from the inside out. Not dealing with emotional trauma creates stress. Stress, I'm not a doctor, but stress can create things like high blood pressure, anxiety, heart disease even. So even though we're not outwardly dealing with it, inwardly we definitely are. And I feel that if we managed our emotional response to trauma, everything else, all the manifestations of that traumatic experience would work itself out. And a lot of times, just in my situation, one of my triggers is that phrase, you can't miss what you've never had. And that is a trigger for me, because although I did have my father for a very brief moment in the span of my life, you can miss a relationship that, in my opinion, was cut short. You see others lament over the loss of a parent later in life. You see others lament over the loss of a grandparent, aunt, and uncle, and they've had, decades to develop a relationship. I'm here to tell you that you can lament the loss of someone that you never had a relationship with. People, have miscarriages. You can lament the relationship that you really didn't have in this physical realm, because the tricky thing about trauma is that we all have different lived experiences that dictate our responses to trauma. And so I'm just trauma and the response to it just comes and expresses itself in very varying ways. I said all of that to say this: mental health is real. And until we put as much energy in our mental health as we do our physical health, we're going to keep repeating cycles. I want to talk about different ways of identifying trauma. One of the ways that you can identify trauma is unexplainable anger. When you are just angry for no reason at all. And oftentimes people will tell you, oh my God, you went from 0 to 100. Like that didn't even warrant that. And then we take offense because we feel it did, but sometimes it really didn't. And it's not necessarily you're reacting to the situation at hand. You've been triggered by that situation over an event that you haven't resolved. Flashbacks. Like I said, in my instance, I would have this reoccurring memory of my aunt, and I never knew where the memory came from. I just would have it over and over again. And because I didn't necessarily know, or maybe when I found out, I didn't have the voice, that it was just a memory that would just reoccur. Sleeplessness. Sleeplessness is a big thing, and it goes hand in hand with like nightmares. And when I was a really, really young child, I used to have this reoccurring nightmare of being dropped off and just left alone. Try not to get emotional, said I wasn't gonna cry. But yeah, so I used to have this nightmare of just being left alone. And now that I'm a little older and much more aware of how that particular situation plays effect on my life today, I really feel like because I was so young and I had a relationship with my father, and one day it was just gone. And as a 3-year-old, I don't think I was told that he had passed away or that he had died. I don't think I came into that realization maybe until later, or maybe why. But now that nightmare makes sense, to be afraid of being left alone. That makes perfect sense now. Gotta get myself together. Oh. Yeah. So, sleeplessness, nightmares could be a result of a traumatic situation. Being irritable, moody, mood swings could be a result of lingering emotions from a traumatic experience. Anxiety, panic attacks, always being in a constant state of alert because you're waiting for the next thing to happen because, you've experienced trauma. This could be a result of unresolved emotions. And one of the final things that I want to discuss is withdrawing from things you used to like to do, people you used to like to be around. Isolation. One of the things, or one of the fallout situations of trauma is that sometimes it can hold you captive. It can hold you hostage because what it will tell you is that you're by yourself. No one really knows. And so that contributes to a sense of embarrassment, contributes to a sense of I'm not worthy. But I'm here to tell you, you are worthy. There's no reason you should be embarrassed about a traumatic situation that happened to you, especially if it was something that was out of your control. But the thing about trauma, it will make you feel that way. It will make you feel like people are whispering about you. If they knew this about me, they wouldn't, hang around me or be associated with me. So I want to let you know that can be the farthest from the truth, because the people that love you are going to be there for you. And if somebody walks away from you because you're working through a traumatic experience or dealing with your emotions around a traumatic experience, then they probably don't need to be in your life in the first place. And one of the things as I've been working through trauma, my mom says, I talk too much. I tell too much of my business. And I think that has helped me work through my traumatic experience, because I've never met a stranger. You can meet me in 10 minutes of knowing me. I can just run it down. Because I refuse to allow situations that I've been through to hold me hostage. I refuse to let a traumatic experience keep me captive. And this has helped me tremendously, I feel. And we all live through various traumatic experiences. And so this is just one I'm sharing with you on today. I'm a firm believer that everybody has a story. Your story may not be my story. My story may not be your story. But everybody has a story. And my story doesn't make me superior, but it definitely does not make me inferior to anyone. Okay. So let me talk about ways to possibly work through trauma and break free of the stigma of trauma. Some of the ways to break free of the stigma of trauma is physical activity, exercise, yoga even. Yoga not only increases flexibility, but it also increases muscle strength, muscle tone. Through yoga, not only are you getting mentally fit, but you're also getting physically fit. Yoga creates mental clarity. It creates a sense of calmness. It increases body awareness. It relieves chronic stress. It also relaxes the mind and centers attention and sharpens concentration. So through yoga and through exercise, I remember I used to be an avid runner, running 3 to 5 miles a day. And when I was out there running, it really got the blood flowing, got the mind. You're in tune with your body, listening to your breathing, and it allowed you to kind of work through situations that you have going on in your life. You have the time to work through it, and you're working through it. And it releases endorphins that actually are beneficial to the body. And likewise with yoga, when you're doing that physical activity, you're releasing endorphins and getting rid of that cortisol that kills you. So yoga and exercise are great ways of working through trauma. Meditation and prayer. When you pray, well, at least in my situation, especially situations that are beyond my control, I give it up to God and release it. Like they always say, if you're going to pray about it, why are you worrying about it? So I give it to God, let Him deal with it. He's not going to die from stress. He's not going to, get overwhelmed. So I give it to Him, and then I continue to be prayerful about it. And likewise with meditation. When you meditate, you let go of those thoughts, those nagging thoughts. Meditation can reduce the feeling of stress. It can reduce the feeling of anxiety. So meditation, you're becoming one with your body. You're, concentrating and focusing on your breathing, being one with your body. And this can assist you in working through the results of a traumatic experience. And my final way to help you work through a traumatic experience is talking about it. Find a good friend that gives you sound advice, not a friend that, just all over the place, but a friend that will give you sound advice. And if you don't have a friend, then a professional. Either way, talking about a situation will help you work through resolving the emotional effects of that situation. When you talk about it, you kind of release it into the atmosphere. It's not building up on the inside. It's not killing you from inside out. So talking about that situation can just release you from that anxiety and from the stress of that situation. So talk about, don't do what your mama and grandmama used to always say and not talk about it. What we're going to do for this better me in 2023, and in this chick's opinion, we're going to break the chains that bind us mentally. We're going to break generational curses over our lives. We're not going to allow past trauma to continue to hold us hostage by having these outbursts, by having bad relationships because we haven't resolved the trauma in another relationship. My traumatic experience growing up without a father has put itself in various places in my life. And now that I'm older and more aware of it, I can see it when it rears its little head. So being able to identify it is really important. And going back to prayer and meditation, one of the things that prayer and meditation does is it helps you regulate your emotions. That's one thing that sometimes when you're young and you're impulsive, it's hard to do. But a lot of times as you grow older and realize that acting out like that just never helped the situation, and oftentimes a reaction is not good because you really should think about things before you act. So through prayer and meditation, it helps get your emotions under control, where just because somebody says something cute to you, you're not reacting. So that's what I want us to do, is regulate our emotions. If we regulate ourselves, all we can do is work on ourselves, and everybody else has to work on them. You can't tell this person how to do this. You can't tell that person. So let's regulate ourselves. Let's not let a past traumatic experience continue to proliferate through our lives. That's just this chick's opinion. Thank you so much for checking me out this week. Next week, we're going to kick off Women's History Month. I'm going to be talking about women in real estate. I'm Kaniki, a chick with opinions. And remember, it's not an attitude, it's a movement. Peace.